Warm greetings, family. How are you, family? I'm well, guys. Okay, guys, we are back again with another video. We're still doing the Labor Relations Act, still dealing with the Labor Relations Act, which is popularly known as the LRA. So we're doing the chapter 2 of the Labor Relations Act, which is about the freedom of association. So we're going to be doing the legal effects of collective agreements. There are those sectors which are covered by bargaining councils. So they've got what they call the collective agreements. So now we're going to be talking about the legal effect of the collective agreements, right? So we're going to be delving into that today. And thank you very much, guys, for subscribing to the channel. There's quite a substantial growth in terms of the subscribers. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much, guys, for viewing the videos in the channel. Please continue doing so, and please do continue sharing the videos, different social media platforms that you guys are using. It helps a lot in terms of promoting the channel and ensure that it reaches as wider audience as possible. Okay, let's get into it, guys. We're going to be doing part B, collective agreements. Legal effect of collective agreement, right? Number one, a collective agreement binds a collective agreement binds the parties to the collective agreement. B, a collective agreement binds each party to the collective agreement and the members of every other party to the collective agreement insofar as the provisions are applicable between them. C, a collective agreement binds the members of a registered trade union and the employers who are members of a registered employers organization that are party to the collective agreement if the collective agreement regulates 1, terms and conditions of employment, or 2, the conduct of the employers in relation to their employees, or the conduct of the employees in relation to their employers. D, employees who are not members of the registered trade union or trade unions party to the agreement if 1, the employees are identified in the agreement, 2, the agreement expressly binds the employees, and 3, that the trade union or those trade unions have as their members the majority of employees employed by the employer in their workplace. Number 2, a collective agreement binds for the whole period of the collective agreement every person bound in terms of subsection 1, subsection C, who was a member at the time it became binding, or who became a member after it became binding, whether or not that person continues to be a member of the registered trade union or a registered employers organization for the duration of the collective agreement. 3, where applicable, a collective agreement varies and any contract of employment between an employee and employer who are both bound by the collective agreement. Number 4, unless the collective agreement provides otherwise, any party to a collective agreement that is concluded for an indefinite period may terminate the agreement by giving reasonable notice in writing to the other parties. All right, disputes about collective agreement. Let's go. Number 1, every collective agreement excluding an agency shop agreement concluded in terms of section 25, or a closed shop agreement concluded in terms of section 26, or a settlement agreement contemplated in either section 142A or 158 subsection 1 subsection C must provide for a procedure to resolve any dispute about the interpretation or application of the collective agreement. The procedure must first require the parties to attempt to resolve the dispute through conciliation, and if the dispute remains unresolved, to resolve it through arbitration. Number 2, if there is a dispute about the interpretation or application of a collective agreement, any party to a dispute may refer the dispute in writing to the Commission if A, the collective agreement does not provide for a procedure as required by subsection 1, B, the procedure provided for the collective agreement is not operative, or C, any party to a collective agreement has frustrated the resolution of the dispute in terms of the collective agreement. Number 3, the party who refers the dispute to the commission must satisfy if that a copy of the referral has been served on all other parties to the dispute. Number 4, the commission must attempt to resolve the dispute through conciliation. Number 5, if the dispute remains unresolved, any party to the dispute may request that the dispute be resolved through arbitration. Number 6, if there is a dispute about the interpretation or application of an agency shop agreement concluded in terms of Section 25 or a closed shop agreement concluded in terms of Section 26, any party to the dispute may refer the dispute in writing to the commission, and subsection 3 to 5 will apply to that dispute. Number 7, any person bound by an arbitration award about the interpretation or application of Section 25, subsection 3, subsection C and D, or Section 26, subsection 3D, may appeal against that award to the labor court. Right. Number 8, if there's a dispute about the interpretation or application of the settlement agreement contemplated in either Section 142A or 158, subsection 1C, a party may refer the dispute to a council or the commission, and subsections 3 to 5 with the necessary changes applied to that dispute. Now we'll go to agency shop agreements. Number 1, a representative trade union and an employer or employers organization may conclude a collective agreement to be known as an agency shop agreement, requiring the employer to deduct an agreed agency fee from the wages of employees identified in the agreement who are not members of the trade union but are eligible for membership thereof. Number 2, for the purposes of this section, representative trade union means a registered trade union or 2 or more registered trade unions acting jointly, whose members are a majority of the employees employed, A, by an employer in a workplace, or B, by the members of an employer's organization in a sector and area in respect of which the agency shop agreement applies. Number 3, an agency shop agreement is binding only if it provides that A, employees who are not members of the representative trade union are not compelled to become members of that trade union. B, the agreed agency fee must be equivalent to or less than 1, the amount of subscription payable by members of the representative trade union. 2, if the subscription of the representative trade union is calculated as a percentage of an employee's salary, that percentage. Or 3, if there are 2 or more registered trade unions party to the agreement, the highest amount of the subscription that would apply to an employee. Number C, the amount deducted must be paid into a separate account administered by the representative trade union. And D, no agency fee deducted may be 1, paid to a political party as an affiliation fee, 2, contributed in cash or kind to a political party or a person standing for election to any political office, or 3, used for any expenditure that does not advance or protect the socio-economic interest of employees. 4A, despite provisions of any law or contract, an employer may deduct the agreed agency fee from the wages of an employee without the employee's authorization. B, despite subsection 3C, a conscientious objector may request the employer to pay the amount deducted from that employee's wage into a fund administered by the Department of Labor. Number 5, the provisions of section 98 and 100B and C apply read with the changes required by the context to the separate account referred to in subsection 3C. Number 6, any person may inspect the auditor's report insofar as it relates to an account referred to in subsection 3C in the registrar's office. Number 7, the register must provide a certified copy of or extract from any of the documents referred to in subsection 6 to any person who has paid the prescribed fees. Number 8, An employer or employers organization that alleges that a trade union is no longer a representative trade union in terms of subsection 1 must give the trade union written notice of the allegation and must allow the trade union 90 days from the date of the notice to establish that it is a representative trade union. Number 9. If within the 90-day period the trade union fails to establish that it is a representative trade union, the employer must give the trade union and the employees covered by the agency shop agreement 30 days notice of termination, after which the agreement will terminate. Number 10. If an agency shop agreement is terminated, the provisions of subsection 3C and D and 5 apply until the money in the separate account is spent. Now we go to the closed shop agreement. A representative trade union and an employer or employers organization may conclude a collective agreement to be known as a closed shop agreement, requiring all employees covered by the agreement to be members of the trade union. Right. Number 2. For the purpose of this section, representative trade union means a registered trade union or 2 or more registered trade unions acting jointly whose members are a majority of the employees employed, A, by an employer in a workplace, or B, by the members of an employer's organization in a sector and area in respect of which the closed shop agreement applies. Number 3. A closed shop agreement is binding only if A ballot has been held of the employees to be covered by the agreement, B, 2/3 of the employees who have voted in favor of the agreement, C, there is no provision in the agreement requiring membership of the representative trade union before employment commences, and D, it provides that no membership subscription or levy deducted may be A, paid to a political party as an affiliation fee, 2, contributed in cash or kind to a political party or a person standing for election to any political office, or 3, used for an expenditure that does not advance or protect the socio-economic interest of employees. Number 4. Despite subsection 3B, a closed shop agreement contemplated in subsection 2B may be concluded between a registered trade union and a registered employers organization in respect of a sector and area to become binding in every workplace in which A ballot has been held of the employees to be covered by the agreement, and B, 2/3 of the employees who have voted in favor of the agreement. 5. No trade union that is party to a closed shop agreement may refuse an employee membership or expel an employee from the trade union unless A, the refusal or expulsion is in accordance with the trade union's constitution, and B, the reason for the refusal or expulsion is fair, including but not limited to conduct that undermines the trade union's collective exercise of its rights. 6. It is not unfair to dismiss an employee A for refusing to join a trade union party to a closed shop agreement, B, who has refused membership of a trade union party to a closed shop agreement if the refusal is in accordance with the provisions of subsection 5, or C, who is expelled from a trade union party to a closed shop agreement if the expulsion is in accordance with the provisions of subsection 5. Despite subsection 6, the employees at the time of a closed shop agreement takes effect may not be dismissed for refusing to join a trade union party to agreement, and B, employees may not be dismissed for refusing to join a trade union party to agreement on grounds of conscientious objection. 8. The employees referred in subsection 7 may be required by a closed shop agreement to pay an agreed agency fee, in which case the provisions of section 25 subsection 3B, C, and D, and 4 to 7 apply. 9. If the labor court decides that a dismissal is unfair because the refusal of membership of or the expulsion from a trade union party to a closed shop agreement was unfair, the provisions of chapter 5 apply, except that any order of compensation in terms of that chapter must be made against the trade union. Number 10. A registered trade union that represents a significant interest in or a substantial number of the employees covered by a closed shop agreement may notify the parties to the agreement if its intention to apply to become a party to the agreement, and within 30 days of the notice, the employer must convene a meeting of the parties and the registered trade union in order to consider the application. Number 11. If the parties to a closed shop agreement do not admit the registered trade union or as a party, the trade union may refer the dispute in writing to the commission. Number 12. The registered trade union must satisfy the commission that a copy of the referral has been served on all the parties to the closed shop agreement. Number 13. The commission must attempt to resolve the dispute through conciliation. 14. If the dispute remains unresolved, any party to the dispute may refer it to the labor court for adjudication. 15. The representative trade union must conduct a ballot of employees covered by the closed shop agreement to determine whether the agreement should be terminated if A. 1/3 of the employees covered by the agreement sign a petition calling for the termination of the agreement, and B. 3 years have elapsed since the date on which the agreement commenced or the last ballot was conducted in terms of this section. 16. If a majority of the employees who voted have voted to terminate the closed shop agreement, the agreement will terminate. 17. Unless a collective agreement provides otherwise, the ballot referred to in subsection 3A and 15 must be conducted in accordance with the guidelines published by the Commission. We will end there for today on this video. Then the next video will deal with part C of the bargaining councils. Right, so we'll end it there for now. And thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. And please do share this video. If you're using Twitter, please do share it on Twitter. If you're using Facebook or WhatsApp, do share it so at least we are able to reach as many people as we can. Ngiyabonga kakhulu ngane zakwethu. Ayibele sidi makukhanya.